Good morning and happy Tuesday on this March 5th. It's Super Tuesday, so we have a lot to talk about today. There are voters going to the polls in about 15 states, and as we get closer and closer, it's going to be here before we know it as we get into fall and another presidential election. What are things looking like for Nikki Haley and Donald Trump? We'll talk about that with my friend and former co-worker from Fox 2, Vic Faust. You remember his name? You remember he was with Mandy Murphy in the evening? We'll talk about being canceled, him launching his show over a year ago, how successful that show has been. We have a lot to talk about with regards to the political divide that has always existed. Will it ever not be as polarizing as it is? We're going to talk about that. It's a balance of positivity and negativity that's out in the world, but always trying to bring it back of how do we bring Republicans, Democrats together? If you're right down the middle, Libertarian, whatever party you're on, how can we get into a social area and have people start to talk about what's going on in our world and actually have some calmness within us instead of the horrible, as I mentioned, polarizing look at America. We're going to talk about that today, and I can't wait for you to weigh in. I also want to wish one of my dearest, best friends in Las Vegas, Nevada, a happy 60th birthday. This man looks like he's in his 40s, though. Todd Michaels, I love you. You are my brother. Got married. Aunt Janet in Birmingham, Alabama, having a birthday today as well. Love you both so much. We're going to talk about Super Tuesday. We're going to talk about birth control pills now being at your local Walgreens and CVS pharmacies. No prescription needed. $20 for a month. What are your thoughts on that? I have so much to weigh in with regards to that. And we've got some sports news and what the heck's going on in the weather. We'll talk the Blues, we'll talk Cardinals, and we'll talk about Jason Kelce and that emotional speech yesterday. Did you see it? Let's start with your weather, though. So yesterday, warm, very windy, and many of you waking up to some rain today. I was coming out from 55, heading into 270, heading on to 40. Once I got on to 64, 40, a little drier, but some of the roads might be wet. You might have some sprinkles here or a little pop shower. It's actually warmer right now than it's going to be by the time we get to about 9 or 10 o'clock this morning, starting to get into the 50s. So 58 for a high by about 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going to start to go up incrementally, 61, 62, but this is going to be a wet pattern as we get into the latter part of the week and into the weekend. So understand you need your umbrella. Make sure it's in the car because you may be caught here or there depending on when you're heading out this week. So 60s pretty much. Remember, we're going to lose some hours springing forward Saturday night into Sunday. This is when we all hate it because we lose that hour of sleep. All right, there's your What the Weather. Not as good as Beckett Moore will do it, and we look forward to having Beckett with our What the Weather segment. We'll be checking in with him again probably a little bit later into the week. All right, let's talk about some pretty serious things that are out there, at least in my mind. You all know, maybe, or if you're new to the show, and I know people pop on every second, I'll be looking at your comments. Thank you, by the way, for all of you that are sharing and liking and following our live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. Let everybody know we've got a lot to talk about. We've been doing this now for over a year, and I love when you weigh in with what our topics are. So I had the largest blood clot in medical history when I was 19 years old. They didn't know exactly what caused it until I had a test done by my very forward-thinking family doctor. He said, Monica, did they run this particular test back when you were in college when this happened? And I said, they ran every test known to mankind. But he said, no, depending on the year, I bet you they didn't because they weren't testing for this back then. So this was in 1990. I was 19 years old at Mizzou. And I had an incredible blood clot that put me into intensive care, put me into a regular room for another week. I was on Coumadin for 2 years, was supposed to be on it for the rest of my life. They always believed that maybe it was a deep blow to my stomach from playing goalie or that I was put on birth control pills to get rid of a cyst. That is what caused my blood clot. Isn't that chilling when I tell you that story? To think I was just so casually put on birth control pills. I didn't want to be, by the way. I was raised right. Mama taught me right. All right, I don't sleep around, so there's no reason to be on birth control pills. I didn't want to be on them. I fought against it. And the doctor came back and said, well, you can let this cyst burst, you can have surgery, or we'll put you on birth control pills. And I was like, I don't want that. But I also didn't want to be through the pain of the bursting, and they didn't want me to go through surgery. So pretty much it almost felt like it was out of my hands. And they put me on that. 3 weeks later, I developed the largest blood clot in medical history. So when my doctor did the test about, I'd say 12, 13 years ago to determine what caused it, he came back 9 o'clock in the evening, called me to say, I don't mean to be bothering you, but I know what caused it. And he said, you never should have been put on the pill because you had a clotting disorder. But nothing against that OBGYN at the time. She didn't know I had the disorder. I'm going to tell you right now, it is not a rarity. It is very common, folks. So I'm going to ask you, if your insurance company won't pay for it, do it yourself. Because I had somebody say, yeah, I wanted this test done and the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. Well, then do it yourself because it will be eye-opening how many people have it and how many people, once you find out you have it in your family, your cousins, etc. So it is called Leiden Factor 5. Factor 5 Leiden. Leiden, factor like V. So look into this and have a blood test done just to know. Because if you have it, guess what? You should never be on the pill. You should never smoke. You really shouldn't be around people who smoke. When you travel, you constantly are pumping those legs. If you think you're going to get pregnant, you would have to take a shot, like a heparin shot, just to take care of yourself. It was eye-opening and life-changing, and I am lucky and blessed to be here. And when people ask, what's your purpose in life? Well, I know. He saved me to make a huge, grand difference on a massive scale. That's what I want to do. I preach his word. I say my prayer every day that I say the right things that affect your life. But when I heard this morning coming in, I was like, no, we have got to do something about this because there are way too many people that are, young girls that want to be put on the pill and they don't know if they have this. If you do, they would never, ever put you on it. But this test is not being done. And so I am pushing that I want more and more parents to say, well, maybe I need to have my daughters checked because if they have it, they would never, ever just go up to a Walgreens or a CVS and pick up a month's supply for $20 of birth control pills. It scares me. I'm just going to say that. And I had to start with that this morning. So yes, I'm on a little rant, but whenever I hear about young girls going on birth control pills, it scares the heck out of me. I'll look at some of your comments as you're coming on this morning. Thank you, by the way, for being here. We're going to talk about Super Tuesday, but I'm going to save some of that for my guest. Do you remember former Fox 2 anchor Vic Faust? You probably turned on the 5 o'clock news and saw him with Mandy Murphy. Well, what happened? Why was he canceled? And then he started Cancel This, his show that's been super successful. I'm so proud of him. And he had me on his show as soon as I stepped away from Channel 5 over a year ago. We'll go back and remember some of that and just see what he's been up to today. Let's talk about some sports. The Blues with a huge win against the Philadelphia Flyers. They were in overtime, and Buchnevich scores the game-winning goal in shootouts. They win 2-1, but holy cow, Benny big in the nets. Jordan Binnington with 40 of 41 saves. So way to go for the Blues. They have a 5-game road trip, so they're right back at it again tonight. The Cardinals, they have a hiring fair at Busch Stadium. You ever thought about working there? I mean, how cool would that be? 2 o'clock this afternoon, a hiring fair. You could work in concessions and so many other levels. So that's going on today. And that emotional speech, did you see it yesterday by Jason Kelsey? He could not gain his composure. He was just overcome with emotion. But, one of the greatest centers in the game, he said it's, in his playing days, his body is so beat up that it was hard to make the decision, but he finally did. So an emotional time. His wife was there. Travis was there watching this. Travis had his glasses on, and you could see that he was crying. His wife was crying. So yeah, best of luck to you as you make that transition mentally and spiritually, but he also wanted to spend more time with his family. So that's the news that you can use this morning. Let me say good morning to those of you that are coming on. Julie Fabian, she said, I listened to Cancel This after I listened to you. I love that. Julie, thank you. So when we wrap up the show at 8, she listens to Vic. Good morning, Marilyn, Leona, Lisa, thank you so much for joining our class last night. The pickleball lady that I met at the retreat this past weekend, she started to work out with us last night in our boxing and did a great job. Happy, beautiful morning, she says. Very heartfelt, touching speech, Marilyn says, on leaving the passion and livelihood. Love those Kelsey boys. Glad you had a chance to see that. Kathleen, good morning to you. Lisa says, OMG, goosebump moment with the fact the recommendation so casual caused such a huge, scary blood clot. I know, doesn't it? It's kind of crazy. Terry and Richard, hello. Joe Zerflu, that looks like a new name. Welcome aboard. Let us know how you found us. Bennington was amazing, probably his greatest ever in a shootout, Marilyn says. Glad you had a chance to see that. Good morning, Tricia. Good morning to Terry, Patty Ann. All of you that are new or have been with the show since the very beginning, thank you. Each and every one of you. We couldn't do it without you. And we couldn't do it without our sponsors, and especially the one that sponsors this beautiful studio, Envita Health and Wellness. We're going to hear from them, and when we return, Vic Faust, my guest, in the blue chair. Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online envitahealthandwellness.com. Good morning and welcome back to the Real Monica Adams Show. I'm your host, and for all the new names that I'm seeing this morning, hi, let us know where you're watching from. I love when people take us on vacation. Some of you said you went to Italy and you were still with us. Why? Because even on vacation, you want to make sure you wake up with a little positivity. Now, we talked about some things yesterday and today, different topics that you haven't heard me cover in the last year, but my dear friend and I have actually talked about this for a while, and we've been wanting to do it, and he said, you know what, Monica, that's actually a very powerful topic. Because we can go back hundreds of years and talk about the fact that this has affected our world, and how in the heck do we ever, could he and I figure it out today, how we bring some calmness back to the world? Well, we'll see. We're going to try and chip away at it. You remember this face? This is my friend, Vic Faust, former Fox 2 anchor and now host of the Cancel This podcast. Hi.
Good morning, Monica.
Vietnam.
We are finally here. No, it is. It's a great morning. I'm so glad to be with you. Congrats. I'm not just doing this where you start off a show and you're like, oh, you're wonderful. I mean, it's legitimate. This is a fantastic show.
Thank you.
We watch it, and it's good to sit with you and talk, and even if it is politics, and I get worn out talking politics, because we do talk a lot of politics on Cancel This, but you are my friend, and there's a lot of history there in, 7 years, 8 years, and it's just good to be here again. That's for sure.
Thank you. It was so funny. Vic walked in and he's like, it smells so good in this studio. I've got to up my game.
We do.
We'll let you know where we got these candles from.
I know. I feel bad for the women that do work with us at our studio. It's like, we'll get it up. Those do smell. They smell good. What flavor is it?
It is Jasmine Midnight Bloom.
Where do you get a candle? Where do you get a candle that big?
Well, here's the deal. Because this candle was expensive. Let's just be real. However, Vic, we lit this when we launched the very first show here, which was June 12th. This has lasted since June of last year. So it's worth over $200.
Well, I think I see 6 wicks.
Yes. And it only has, what do you think, maybe 2 weeks left.
Yeah.
All right, let's look back at some pictures. You remember him. If you're just tuning in, you're like, oh, he looks familiar. Well, sure. He came into your home every night at 5 p.m. with the wonderful Mandy Murphy out covering.
Oh, my God, I remember that fire. There was so much heat. There were wild.
I'm surprised it didn't melt your jacket.
That was a controlled burn, by the way.
So he's covered a lot for you in the field. Oh, my gosh, Shirley Washington, what a class act.
No doubt about it.
Always thinking about the home opener, some phenomenal things. And when we talk about the business that we were in, you drove around and watched them on the billboard and were like, oh, yeah, I love those too. So look, we're not saying that the business overall is horrible. You've heard me say that there's some really negative things that can take place in a newsroom, but there's also some really beautiful things and some stories that can truly change your life. Let's look at that for a second. So he just pulled up another picture that I forgot about. We did the dragon boat races. That was at Creve Coeur Park, by the way. Ray Weigel with us, who you probably also saw.
Day.
We won.
We did win. I'm glad you said it. I have to share a story while the pictures are up. We won because you were our captain. And there were no other options. You win or you will face lashes. I don't lose. I'm Monica Adams.
Shut up.
and we kicked ass. And we did. That was the best team. And they didn't do it the next year, right?
Well, they have done it. I first did it with, and I never knew that they held these. KMOX, when I was with KMOX, they asked me if I wanted to be on this dragon boat race team. I'm like, what's a dragon boat? I thought it was just some fun thing. Didn't realize how difficult it was. We didn't do good that year. But then when I go to Fox, and we were talking with some of the salespeople, they had actually wanted to do this and asked if we wanted to get a team together. Well, a lot of those people were like my clients, dear friends, people who are work out. So I'm stacking a team.
I think I popped an ice cold beer at 10:30 a.m. after we won on Creve Coeur Lake.
Absolutely.
I remember the day well. It was hot. It was sticky.
Yes.
But we won, and damn, that was fun.
It was fun.
And so much fun.
Let's explain this, folks. It's, what, 20? I think there's 20 people in a boat and a drummer. And the drummer, although it looks like they're just having fun at the front of the boat, yes, they're having fun, but they're keeping you in rhythm. So, yes, we did our first race, and this is true. Our first race, and then everybody goes over to the tent because you have a little break. And most of the teams are just kicking back, starting to drink. And I'm like, all right, we all need to sit down on the grass and we need to do our movement. Remember this? I was like, forward, back. Rafer wasn't happy, I don't think.
Well, I don't know if he took direction well at that time.
He did not. But we won. And yes, that's all that matters.
It was, I grew up on that lake. I grew up not far from there in Maryland Heights, just up the hill a little bit, right next to Creve Coeur Lake.
Did you kayak on there?
No, I windsurfed.
Oh, really?
With my stepfather.
Very cool.
And there were and people who remember back in the day, there were a lot of windsurfers out on Creve Coeur Lake.
You're right. I forgot about that.
And that was my first time being back out on the water since then. I was like, this is great. This is fun. So
bringing you back to your youth.
Yeah, but you don't lose with Monica Adams. Ever.
Hey, remember that, folks. You win in every aspect of life. High five that.
You got
I like
my
that
friend.
comment. If you're just tuning in, Vic Faust, longtime anchor. You also were in sports.
Yeah, I started in sports.
Yeah. Do you miss that at all?
No. I'd had it, for example, when you do sports, it's a wear and tear. It's a grind. And I did it for a long time. I was in Detroit and went to Detroit as a sports anchor. Loved it. But you just get worn down. The schedule when you're married and have young kids and you're working till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and you're chasing athletes all around. Detroit is a marvelous sports town. And I have a son, my youngest son, who's now a sophomore in high school, became a Detroit sports fan. So he's a huge Lions fan. Oh, and there you go right there. My son, Drake, he's a freshman at Mizzou. I have a junior daughter. She's not in the picture at Mizzou as well. And then my sophomore. So he became a Detroit sports fan. So I started in sports and loved it. There, Monica, you guys leave no stone unturned.
No,
are you kidding me?
We've got you. She's beautiful, by the way.
Oh, she is.
And I mean, probably when she turned about 13 or 14, you started getting worried.
And she makes me proud. She does. And so I did sports and I loved it. And then I just started to get worn out and I never complained or said anything. But the general manager at the station at the time, Bob Sleva, said, he walked up to me, he's like, I want you to be my news guy. And
I was wondering how you made the transition.
And he said, I want you to do it, but you have to start doing weekend mornings to do it. And I'm like, I'm in. I mean, I'm in. So I became the first backpack journalist.
Tell them what that means.
In Detroit, where I went. So on the weekends, I was working as a news anchor, just honing my crafts, learning the crafts. And on the weekends, you had you were doing that. So then during the weekdays, 3 days a week, when I would report, I would go out by myself. So I would shoot, I would light it, I would edit and track and get it done on time for the day, for the early show, for 5, 6, 7 o'clock shows. It's tough.
That's all that is existing in the industry anymore, by the way. There were a lot of people that you and I worked with, and I won't name names, that they were like, nope, I'm not doing it. Good for you, but I will say, I'm so glad, and that is what I have to thank Audrey at Fox 2. I was like, what am I going to be doing? And it was a lot of hours. However, in what we are now doing, it really, truly helped. So thank you, by the way, Audrey, for that there were a lot of levels of things that most people, after you had been in the industry for a while, were like, I don't want to do this. But I did. It was actually taking me out of my comfort zone and transitioning me to doing more. Yes, we shoot, we edit, we light, we do the audio engineering aspect. So you feel like, all right, well, I can go and do this for anybody. Now all the 20-something-year-olds that are coming out of college, that's what they all know to do, because that is what the industry has turned to.
I got a call 2 weeks ago from a woman that I knew in Detroit. She's like, I asked you 15 years ago about my daughter when she gets of age. So they wanted advice. And I'm like, can she shoot? Can she edit? Can she deal with deadlines? And she's like, what? You have to do all of that? I'm like, yeah, the business changed. It was an easier transition for me because in sports, you shot everything.
Yeah.
And you had to edit.
Right.
And, going back 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, you had people who did that for you. Those were actual jobs. And shooting and editing, that's a craft. It's a skill.
It's an art. It's so,
you can't take that for granted.
Did you at all? Because when I knew that was happening in our industry, I just started looking around, going, all I hear is loss of jobs, and it's the loss of unbelievably talented people. And I actually was surprised that it ever made the transition, because when I was doing my internship in sports 30 years ago, I wasn't even able to eject a tape out of the VCR without having my hand slapped. We couldn't touch anything. And now here we are all over their equipment doing everything. I'm surprised the transition happened.
It's not easy, and the business has changed. That doesn't mean it's not a good business. I've been frustrated over the years with upper-level corporate decisions. Yeah. When corporate gets involved and takes over a TV station, for the most part, I think people are good and they're talented and they're skilled and they want to do the best, but they're not given the resources to do that in local news. They're just not. And you don't have enough people and everybody's stressed and, oh my God, we got to have content, and you're not worried about quality. And that was the business before I changed, before I was out of there a couple of years ago or a year and a half ago.
If you're just tuning in, The Real Monica Adams Show at 7:21, and I'm going to make sure that you are heard. So we'll look at comments or questions that any of you may have. Somebody just said, 2 greats of St. Louis. Hi, Vic. That's from Dawn
That's
Boutrim.
Very kind.
Dawn Harvey Boutrim,
Thank
who
you,
I
Dawn.
used to go to high school with. I actually just realized. Good morning to all from Kathy Anselmo. Yes, you watched him. Do you have any favorite stories that he did? If you want to weigh in, let us know. Good morning from Edwardsville. Thanks for letting us know where you're watching from. I'm going to take a quick break. Again, we're talking about the industry we were in, and then what happened. Do you know the story about what happened when he left Fox 2 and how Cancel This podcast ever came about? We'll discuss that.
Who doesn't?
And then, there's some people that don't.
Stop it. Come on, who doesn't?
Let us know if you didn't hear the story. We'll have more with Vic Faust when we return.
Hi, it's Monica Adams. Thank you so much for following along with The Real Monica Adams Show since we launched back in March. But I wanted to let you know there's so much more that I could do with you, your business, your corporation. Did you know that I'm a motivational speaker all around the world, as well as an MC and an auctioneer? So if you have an event, maybe a nonprofit organization, and you want to book me, just shoot me an email, info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com. Personal training, life coaching, and styling as well. Info@TheRealMonicaAdams.com.
Welcome back, 7:23. Just sharing some times together of what we've done in this industry. Do you miss the industry at all? Those are things we're going to ask him. It's Vic Faust. He's in the blue chair today as we talk about where he came from and what he's doing now. He just asked as we went into the break if anybody didn't hear this story. So yes, you've been gone from Fox how long now?
Year and a half.
Year and a half.
That's how long it's been.
And you were canceled.
Well, kinda, but not.
Okay.
The name of our podcast is Cancel This.
Yep.
But it wasn't really. If anybody did any canceling, I kind of canceled myself.
So did you made a decision to step away?
No,
It was mutual?
No, I made the decision to get very angry and yell at somebody. That was the decision that I made.
Yeah, but that wasn't done at Fox, though. That was done on your radio show.
It was done during a break at a radio station. No, not.
But it
not
had
at
nothing to
Fox.
do with the TV station.
No,
which is
it
why
didn't.
when I knew that they let you go, I was against it. I understand the corporate side.
You know what though? When that whole situation happened, and for people who don't know, I mean, I live with it every day. I was recorded, whoever yelling and screaming at a coworker. I had lost it. I'm not going to make excuses. It was a horrible thing, yelling and screaming at somebody and cussing, and there was a tape of it. But I did try to stop that for a month before it happened. And
So it
I
was
don't
just
wanna-
festering and building up.
I asked for help for a month before
From management?
in writing, and eventually one day I lost it. So you know what? It was the worst thing that could have happened, but it was the best thing that could have happened.
But why were you recorded?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's
maybe
the biggest thing everybody kept asking of why suddenly was he recorded like some people thought you were set up.
I don't know. I here's the thing. I've tried not to get, and I haven't gotten angry because somebody did not ask to be yelled and screamed at,
Yep.
and you're in control of your own actions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wasn't in control of my actions that day. And I paid a price with it. I lost a really good job. Our radio show went away. And then I did not get a parachute from Fox 2.
Right.
And people are like, oh, well, certainly Fox 2 took care of you. I was like, no, Fox 2 did not take care of me. So you're starting from scratch. But here's the thing. I grew up tough, tough love. You talk about your parents being raised the right way. I was raised the right way. It's like, okay, you get yourself into a situation, then it's up to you
Yep,
to
climb
get out of it. So I've
How
never
scary was
been
it, though, Vic?
angry at anybody. And that's on me. You've
Yep.
got to find a way to come back out of it. So I've had wonderful opportunities. I had raises and promotions in every single contract for 25 years up until that day when the recording came out. So I wasn't angry at Fox 2. I just wanted to tell my story
Right.
before, and I was told, nope,
Yep.
you're not getting fired. This is going to pass by. We're not going to talk to anybody.
Let's just make this go away.
Just be quiet. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a story to tell. Let me tell about what happened, everything before. Yes, I own what happened, and then whatever happens after that, so be it.
Right.
So yeah, it was extremely difficult to ask your question. I mean, because you're like, okay, you built a career for 25 years, and then you blew it in one setting. And then it's like, okay, once you get past your side, it's like, okay, how are you going to support your kids?
That is all I kept thinking, Vic. Again, Vic Faust is with me. All I thought when it happened was, this has got to be so scary. Like, this comes to an end. This comes to an end. He's got kids. He's got to support. So, honestly, that's a really pivotal point right now where he was a year and a half ago. What goes through you? Because you know I'm big on mental, spiritual,
Yeah.
physical, pulling the balance triangle together. How do you calm yourself to not get so crazy and anxious and let because your kids are watching your every move?
Oh, they are. And deep breaths. The first thing I did was I got into counseling.
Good for
and
you.
it's one of the best things that I ever did. And I started being counseled by a friend who became a friend of mine. And the first thing you have to do is make sure that you're apologizing to the people. And I did. I tried to apologize to the person 3 times before it ever went public. They were not accepted. Okay, well, that's not on me anymore. That's over. So I've apologized. The second thing you have to do is accept responsibility, not have hatred for anybody. And I did. And the third thing is you have to forgive yourself.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting, but I would have liked for you to have put yourself first.
No, well,
You have to forgive yourself first.
but people who know me know that I'm pretty black and white. I'm pretty direct and hardcore on myself. I've been told you're too
hard on yourself.
You're too, just hardcore discipline. It's your fault, and it was. So you had to start to forgive yourself, and I did. And then it's like, okay, now we have to make money, because I still had bills from when I had 2 jobs where I could pay for those. Now I don't have those jobs, but I have the bills that I'm legally signed to. So
Exactly.
it's like,
You better do
help,
something.
Help.
But that's when you dig into your discipline and the
my
way you were
and
raised, and
faith.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah, and you have to do so. I mean, my faith's a big portion. I mean, just because somebody screws up does not mean you're not a person of faith. We screw up. I made a horrible mistake. It was not a life sentence. It was a life lesson. And
What's the greatest lesson you have learned?
and the counseling really helped me go through and realize, because it wasn't just that I made the mistake. It was, what did I do that put me in that point that I allowed myself to get to a point where I could be so stoked, so upset to respond in such a horrible way of yelling and screaming and cursing. And there were some personal matters that were going on at the time privately that I didn't want to get into.
Right.
But that's what you had to deal with. And it's a process. Time does heal all.
Yep.
And you just have to make sure you're doing the right thing day after day, because there's been ups and there's been downs. There's been questioning my faith. There's been questioning, why would that happen? But at the same point, at the end of the day, it was me, which is why I say, and we'll branch off into this with the cancel this. I don't feel as if I was canceled, but some people do. But at the same point in time, if you put yourself in a position to lose something, if you lose it, well, then that's on you.
Well, and you're owning that, which is the biggest message here. Is we've all been there, by the way, because people could cast stones, and they did. They fell. This is kind of like the political thing we're going to talk about today.
Oh,
if you knew Vic,
I was ripped unmercifully for
yes, you were
for a long time, and you know what? I accepted it all, and I didn't get upset with people.
But this is where because I reached out to you right away.
This
is where you know where your friends are. And people have asked me if I watch the show, the morning show. I finally did, by the way. And they said, how close is that to your industry? And I said, almost spot on. So when you all
That's
of a sudden,
funny.
right, when you walk in.
That's a good point.
And you walk in, like if you watch the show, I don't want to give it away if you haven't watched it yet, but when something happens in the show and he walks in and he's looking for an ally in the newsroom, zero, crickets. And I felt that is what happened with you, of people who were there for you suddenly are like, I don't want to be associated with Vic's name because of this. And it's unfortunate that exists.
I don't blame people. I appreciate the people who did reach out. Mm-hmm.
And that are still there to you to this day.
And the people who know me know that, okay, that's not Vic the person. That was Vic in a moment.
We've all had these moments. I mean, that's why you don't cast stones.
But mine was recorded.
I know. Well, and that is the only reason why this has all changed. However, he's a man of faith. I'm a woman of faith. And you feel like, well, I guess you wanted to guide me somewhere else. Yes,
exactly.
You question faith. I mean, how do people not? We're imperfect human beings. But then look what it's launched. So if you haven't listened and watched his show, he had me on. Let's actually look at some of that. We've got some pictures from when Vic was such a sweetheart. And immediately when I left, he's like, what happened? So he had me on in the days after I left, January 2nd of last year. And we told the story.
You were a super popular guest.
Thank you. We were very raw and real. And just as Vic and I are doing today, let's just lay it out there. This is what happened. That's his studio, by the way. That was a year ago. But you started your show a year and a half ago. You've had, 300 plus shows?
Yeah, like 330 shows. We're Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central. And we're broadcasting live out of the I remember that picture. Yeah, it looks great. We broadcast out of the Chesterfield Valley Strategic Air Services. So we have a beautiful studio, as you can see. And we really hit the ground running in probably January of 2023. So we've been...
After I was on your show?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, you were our test subject to see how this would
Look
work.
how great that looks. Look, we both love blue.
Yes. It worked out. And so that's what we do. We talk news. We talk politics. We talk business, cancel culture education. And what that means is when it comes to our world today, what you can and can't say, because the whole focus of our topics and our talk, anybody that joins us, is we're not worried about feelings. We want to talk about facts first.
Right.
Facts, because you can't have anything. You can't have, unless you have facts, you have no truth. And if you don't have truth, then what else do you have?
Well, we're in a world where no one knows what to believe anymore, right? You used to, we're talking about growing up, you would look up at the news and you would believe every single thing that came out of that anchor's mouth. Now it's the exact opposite. People are like, I don't believe anything you say.
Yeah. Well, that happens. And we talk, and I'll talk about local news on occasion. I really feel for the people, because the people that I got to meet over 25 years, for the most part, were really good, solid people and wanted to do the job the best that they could. But literally at Fox 2, I was told, Vic, just be quiet. Don't just collect your paycheck. Don't say anything. Pick your battles. And I'm like, well, we have to cover all sides of a story. We're just not doing that anymore, or don't even do the stories at all.
You heard this before?
And there's no doubt local news can still be a big source for viewers. I believe in that. It could be,
but do you think it ever will again?
Everybody
that's on, and here's the problem.
Ratings have dropped.
If
we want to talk, on our podcast, we have viewers and listeners all across the country and across the world for that matter. But for this, and I know you do too, from the St. Louis area, all ratings have dropped and they continue to plummet. And once again, I don't think it's because of the people. I think it's because of the corporations not giving them money to do the job that they need to do.
Well, because I don't think that's what you all understand.
And stay away from politics, local news. Stay away from national politics. If you want to cover local, do. But don't cover national politics, because and then when you run politics from a national standpoint, you just take the feed that was given to you from Fox or CNN. That news is so bought and paid for. You're not doing the subject's justice.
Right. Well, and if we were in a room right now, let's say we pulled the other chair and we'd have three of us talking, then I pull another chair and we have four of us talking, and we all say, oh, well, I was watching Fox this morning, I was watching NBC this morning, I was watching CBS, I'm over here watching One American News. Well, I heard this, I heard this, I heard this, I heard this. Well, who is telling us the truth? It depends on what network you're watching as to what your belief is.
Yeah, that's why on Fridays, we have our Free for All Friday shows where we stay away from politics and we have fun and get a little wild, crazy. We do a lot of paranormal.
I love it.
We we have a guest. She's a social media superstar, Kelly Mano. Many of your viewers and listeners and people will know her name. I mean, she only has like 8 million followers. So Kelly joins us on Fridays and what it's like dating after 40 and divorce with kids.
Love it.
And Eric Johnson comes in. My co-host during the week is Lizzie Sparks. And
yeah, I didn't meet her. Was she with you from the beginning?
No, she was in our sales department. And little did we know we had this super talent.
Oh, I love it. Hi, Lizzie. I need to come back on.
Yeah, you will. And they're holding down the fort today because we start at 8 o'clock.
Yes, thank you, by the way.
So, yeah, Lizzie Sparks and Megan Moret are holding down the fort. So when we finish here, I'll head back to our studio and then jump in with their show. You know, and we have he goes by Pro Joe. He takes care of our engineering. And as you know, you have to have...
Couldn't do it without the team.
You have to have an engineer. And then we have a gentleman named Derek Pratt who comes on the show. So that's what we do. And we talk about these subjects. And I've talked about local news, and we want to try to cover everything we possibly can because local news has changed. And whether local news is doing a great job, an average job, or a bad job, people just aren't there. People's viewing habits have changed, and there's so many options. And what we do, podcasting, has become a massive industry.
Multi-billion-dollar industry.
A $6 billion industry in 2024.
Well, Vic, I had a lot of people. I spoke at the Working Women's Show a couple of weeks ago. I spoke at this really amazing retreat this past weekend, and everyone's like, I miss you on my TV. And I said, so see this, cast it onto your TV. I don't care how big that TV is at home, cast it, and I'm back in your mornings. And they went, oh, I didn't even think about that. And I said, it's just habits changing, right? You habitually have turned the TV on for the news. However, I mean, it was like a resounding, oh, I miss you on TV. And I'm like, I'm still there. Because when I was still there, oh yeah, nobody watches the news anymore. It's all I heard over and over and over. Nobody watches. Nobody watches. You start to look at the numbers. And so think about the people that are still in the industry and how hard it is for them knowing the numbers are so far down and they're not even able to do what they're wanting to do because there's so many levels behind you ever hearing that story of who all had their hand in it. And if you're sitting there going, we need to change this, this isn't accurate, just read it. No, it's coming back on you.
Yeah.
Right?
I was trained in the same era that you were. And I still consider myself to be a journalist. I do. We're infotainers on podcast. And if anybody joins us, we have fun. It's different than local news. But I still feel I'm a journalist. And I was asked, would you ever get back into local news? Because after the incident happened, I did have a Kansas City TV station contact me and say, in due time, would you still want to be in the business? And I said, I'd have to think about it. And then I never got back after that. Would I consider it? Yeah, I'd consider it, but things would have to be a whole lot different than what they are now. Because I'm just telling you, and it's a fact, there's not a lot of happy people in newsrooms right now.
No, and you've heard me say that.
You need people, whatever you're doing, whether it's your show, my show, or whatever. I mean, I don't care if it's a medical business. You need employees that believe, that want to show up, and are going to give everything they got.
Right.
Or you're not going to achieve what you should.
So I would have asked you that question. Like, would you ever go back, not into the local market? Would you want to go national, et cetera? There's a woman that I have been following for a long time, and this is probably one of the first people that I followed on YouTube, only because she was doing these stories about how to wear your hairstyle cute if you have a short hairstyle. And I'm like, oh, she's really pretty. Oh, I like what she does. Dominique Saxa, do you know her?
I know the name, but I don't know her.
She's brilliant. She was a longtime anchor, and she was asked about a year or so ago.
Wait a second.
Dominique. It looks like
has she joined Dr. Phil?
Yes, I was just going to say.
Okay.
So she had said she would never go back into news.
She was out of Houston.
Yes, she had to eat her words. She's in Dallas now. She just moved, and when she was like leading up to what is she going to do, I was like, she's going to return to news. You've got to be kidding me. Now it's done a little bit different. But yeah, it's his new network. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, it's through, I want to say it's through Matter Media. It's his media.
Yes.
It's his media company.
I think they launched it or they are launching it.
Whatever you do, you better know what you do. So I study. I constantly study the industry. And I came across her just 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And her kind of, I guess, giving her journey of moving from Houston to Dallas to get back in to a podcast of sorts, news, where you tell, quote, both sides of the story.
Right.
So that's where, I do know her name, don't know her, but I wish her the best.
25 years,
But Dr. Phil's getting into the news game.
I know. So, we just gave you a huge plug, by the way, Phil. Why don't you come on the show? Dominique, I've been trying to get onto the show for a while. She's wonderful. I mean, she was the beloved in Houston, and then she stepped away and ended up creating this empire of everything she's done on YouTube and her book and everything. But the great thing is, and she said, this is the reason why I started actually following her, Vic, is I kept wondering, how are you able to do what you're doing on social media while you're working at the TV station? Because that was never happening with us. You can't do this. You can't make money here. He has emceed. I've got a picture of that. I MC for 30 years. It was always done for free because you couldn't get paid.
No,
you did
can't,
it from
the quid pro quo that people.
But now it's funny because from the bottom of my heart, I always wanted to say, well, I want to be there for all the charities. My manager now is like, no more. You literally preach to know your value, and you need to get paid for this. Nonprofits have money because you're bringing them hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Correct.
I know it's so hard though to say, let my manager talk to you about this. But that is one of the things that you and I both love is to help out charitable organizations.
Well, and I would still do it too. And there were two groups that I just kind of stepped away from a year ago. It's like, hey, you don't want any extra media attention right now. Just we'll go from there. But yeah, we have people on our show, and we're getting ready. It's interesting you bring it up to kickstart. And contact me if you have story ideas when it comes to charitable organizations at vic@cancelthisshow.com. Because thank you so much. You put that up there. You guys have it together. Of course, it's Monica Adams. Of course, things are going to be done right.
We win here.
We're gonna be doing a segment where we focus on a charity every single week on a Friday, where we bring them into studio or with the technology you can Zoom with people now.
Yes,
and it looks very, very good. And we do a lot of that too. And we do our national interviews from a political standpoint.
Well, let's talk some politics. We're going to take a quick break, and that's where I'm going to transition the latter part of this show because it's something you've all been taught from a little girl, little boy on. Don't talk politics. Don't talk abortion. Don't talk religion, right? It's all those big threes. I just started the show talking about birth control pills because I had to. I just cannot believe that
by the way. Thank you for giving that opinion and giving an experience. I can go much deeper
into that. I just want people to know. I mean, again, I will probably be talking about it for a little while, but
you're
this
entitled
week,
to an opinion.
Yes, this week it's going to be showing up at Walgreens and CVS that you can just pull in $20 if you didn't hear the beginning of the show. Birth control pills now, you don't have to have a prescription, and that scares me because of the clotting aspect and other side effects that could happen. So, yeah. If you missed the beginning of that, you can hear my rant at the beginning. We're going to take a quick break. Vic Faust, cancel this. I want to make sure that you watch it. You're going to be running over after this, right?
Right. Yep.
He'll be talking about Super Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I want to know, all of us that think differently, it's fine. You're supposed to have it. He just said, you're entitled to an opinion, but can we ever come to the table and say, oh, I see why you think that way, but I'm not going to scream and yell at you and say that you're stupid, which is what happens all over social media by the trolls. Let's discuss all that when we return. We need women to lift women up.
Let's do that. Being on Monica's show, it was like one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Monica's very real, and she really cares about people.
She's changing lives.
Changing lives.
I think this is just really what people want to see.
Giving back so much to the community, and I really appreciate it.
Today, Monica was extraordinarily real, not only with me, but with her viewers and her listeners.
Made the interview process like talking to a friend.
How are you doing? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a few weeks.
Hey! You're close.
Monica. Whoa.
So go out in this world and be anything you want to be. But before you do that, first, be kind. Think about this. When's the last time you called your doctor at 2 o'clock in the morning and he actually answered? Well, at Innovare Health Advocates, their patients are special. Their doctors, nurse practitioners, their care team care deeply about your health, your family, your work, and even your pet. Their clinicians are accessible and they lead your care in and out of the hospital. In fact, Dr. Charles Willie offers his cell phone number to his patients to ensure they can intervene early in your illness. They can provide care above and beyond, offering lab, x-ray, echocardiogram, and other treatments in their office. Innovare Health Advocates with 5 locations on both sides of the river. Check them out, innovarehealth.com.
Welcome back, 7:45. Thanks for being with us, and all of you that are new, maybe you're big followers of Vic, welcome aboard. See, you can watch here and Vic. We have a lot to talk about, changing the world together. Vic started that a year and a half ago. I started my show a year Friday. Friday was our 1-year anniversary. So yes, there is definitely a world after news, and actually a very big one out there. We have things to say, and we are not blocked from that. And I love that about this industry. So I'm going to look at some comments that are coming in from you and some questions you have as well. A couple people were asking where they could watch Vic, and somebody said he was canceled on Facebook since January. No, let's actually get him to answer the questions for you. Cindy Giordano is actually doing a great job answering some things. Michelle's in there letting you know where you can watch as well. So Vic, where can they watch your show?
Oh, it depends on the day. No, I'm just kidding. The great thing about podcasting is, like this show, you have viewers and you have listeners.
Yep.
So Facebook, Rumble, which we have, that's really started to take off for us. If you're not familiar with it, check it out. Formerly Twitter, now X, Twitch, Clout Hub. Those are all the video sources, and YouTube. I think we have 2 more weeks of grounding from YouTube. Because
you got grounded.
How dare us talk about medical? And we were talking about, and not to.
What were you discussing? Because I might get canceled from medical yesterday.
Well, we were talking about 5G, and a lot of people don't understand 5G and some of the things that can come from 5G, because we want to trust the messages that we get from the media. We want to trust everything with government, and we just want people to take an educated standpoint.
Yeah.
We're not conspiracy theorists. We're not to have the tinfoil hats. We're just, let's break down health issues, because like you, health is very important to me. What we put into our bodies, what we surround ourselves with. And we were talking about some of the aspects of 5G that day, and why it's all right to consider new doctors, and not just go to the kind of doctors that we've gone to for our entire lives.
And you got grounded because of that?
Yeah, we got grounded.
So they thought you had misinformation, but you're back, or you're almost back?
Almost back on YouTube. So, and then all the usual platforms for radio, for audio.
Okay. So there's a lot of people saying after they listen to the show, they're listening to you.
Oh, that's
love the
great.
combination. Look, we're a good handoff.
And we're completely different genres as well.
Yes. He goes on Facebook. Okay, Cindy says, Vic, you were great on TV, but you need to be able to speak the truth. Correct. When will news channels and politicians get it? Wake up and see where we all want real authenticity. Same. I am amazed how many people I know are not informed and do not watch the news. I wish I could miss it. I have to watch it on Rumble, and I don't like their chat line. I miss you guys on Facebook for some reason. I'm blocked out.
Oh, I wonder why. I don't know. Message me at vic@canceltheshow.com, and I will try to help you, because we're live every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central. And then you catch all of our episodes on our website at canceltheshow.com. And that's just Cancel This, because we also produce other shows. Yeah,
what is your... you have a news media company.
It's Renew Media Group. Yeah, Renew Media Group. So the whole concept of doing it, besides producing CancelTheShow.com, we produce a football show called The Football 360 Show with JP Rock and Matt Bierman, a recruiting show and all things football for the state of Missouri. And those guys are getting 25,000 hits and likes after every show.
Oh, fantastic.
There's such a huge football base.
When did you start producing that?
That's been going on for about 5-6 months. We produced the Kelly Mano Show, the woman who I was talking about earlier. She's straight on YouTube, so she goes live on Tuesdays at about 5 o'clock. And that's just anything and everything, wild, crazy, having fun. But here's the other thing, and I'll save it when we get into politics, but we also do another, The Wolf of Washington, a political show that shoots on Tuesdays. And we're getting ready to start a gentleman. He's out of the city called Blind City. He said he had to become blind before he could actually see. So Langford Cunningham, he'll be starting his show in April. And then we do another show, which is 100% different from our show when it comes to politics. And that is Dr. Mark Kaysen. He is a teacher, professor at Cardinal Ritter High School. So he does a show every day now from 4 to 5 o'clock. And it's more of a left-leaning show, whereas ours would be considered to be more of, we're conservatives doing a podcast, so people would call us more of a right-leaning show. So we want to give everybody the balance. And if you hate what we say, that's all right. We're giving you or we're giving you our opinion and trying to back it with fact. Where at 4 o'clock, you have Mark Kaysen, who disagrees with everything that we say.
But that's good.
And he thinks
thinks
he's giving facts, although we don't think he's giving facts.
Right. Well, and again, I said that going.
But you have to listen.
You have to listen, and you have to hear what others have to say. All right, we're going to get into that in just a second. Let's see. This woman by the name, her name is Mary. She said, "I've tried everything. I block a lot of weirdos on Facebook, but have never blocked cancel this unless they're going by another name. No, it's cancel this for sure."
Mary, message me, please. Email me, vic@cancelthisshow.com, and thank you for that time.
Let's see. Okay, I'll look at more of these, but he and I both will weigh in after the show on the comments that are coming in as well. Let's go here. So we are in a big year, right? So we're almost looking like is it going to be a showdown of 2020 all over again? So today's Super Tuesday, so it's interesting what will be happening. I don't know where you were 4 years ago or what your thoughts are on Donald Trump, our former president. But I mean, let's just look at from the economy standpoint. We were incredible. And what has happened, and I love how you get closer and closer to the election, and then all of a sudden everything you've ever wanted done suddenly gets done, right? It's just such a joke. I'm just so sick of that game that's played. But I think what I'm trying to do and what Vic and I wanted to do on this show before we wrap up is, do we ever think that we can sit as civilized human beings and listen to a person who thinks completely different than you, just sit and listen and say, well, no, I never heard it that way before, but I can see where you came to that understanding. And you don't have to, you're not trying to change a person's mind, but at least to listen. And that's what's not being done. And I think that's the biggest problem in national news, is that everybody now has just gone onto their soapbox and they are going to feed you what their beliefs are, not the actual news. So if you want to listen to far right or left or right in the middle, then that's it. And the reason why it's smart, as you said, we both research, you've got to listen to every side. Otherwise, you are not giving factual information.
You don't want an echo chamber. An echo chamber is not a good thing for anybody. What we talk about is we want opinions on our show. And I spoke about this last Monday, and then go figure, I get a text from you about this show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is that God working
That's
again?
That's divine intervention, yes.
Because we took about 35, 40 minutes of our show. And I'm like, I'm tired of people not listening. And, politics, religion, no.
Yep, right?
You can't do that. No, don't do that. You don't want to upset anybody. You don't want to offend anybody. Why are we worried about offending or being offended? Don't be a victim just because you hear something you don't like. And maybe it was the news upbringing that I had, where you have to cover both sides and be fair and be a legitimate journalist and not worry about what one side is going to say to you or the other, because there were so many times, and I'm sure you heard it, where I was getting male upset from the right, male upset from the left. And a lot of times, you're doing your job or you're trying to cover it down the middle.
Right.
So with that being said, do I feel as if we have a problem? Yeah, we've got a problem right now. For the most part, people do not want to. I repeat, people do not want to listen to opinions or hear things that they don't like. We are a divided country.
Yes, we are.
And a lot of people.
And worse, I think, than we've ever been.
And this is where people who don't watch our show might disagree with this. There is no doubt in my mind, Monica, there are forces at play within this country, and there are people who want to divide this country. And I'm not even saying it's within this country. One of my good friends is from China. He lives here, and he has explained how there are efforts in this country going on right now to destroy this country. You divide America from within when it comes to politics and race and then financial levels.
I have an interview for you. You talked about 5G. This is a separation. It's not 5G. It's fifth generation warfare. Do you know Boone Cutler?
I don't.
I need to introduce you. You will. It'll probably end up being
Educate
your
me. Teach me.
Well, we had him on. Well, actually, I need to introduce you to the people right down the hallway that own Grunt Style Foundation. Grunt Style, the clothing brand that has 9 million followers, and they have the rifles on the sleeve that say "This we'll defend." Grunt Style Foundation is the arm of the charitable side that is off of there. We've done some incredible series together. We just taped one that's coming out in April or May. But I was introduced to a man named Boone Cutler, who's the author behind the Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. What Vic is talking about is exactly what you all need to wake up and listen to, and that is what this provides to the world in a negative realm. This turns you not against each other, but against yourself. You don't even know what's true, what you can believe anymore. It's so polarizing that you turn against yourself. The kids turning, they said, he's talking about the kids turning against their parents, and how what used to be a fist fight turns into a knife fight, turns into a gun battle, right? I always use the example of what happened at 141 right by Gravois Bluffs of two guys getting frustrated, road rage. A guy gets out, they're in an argument. He flicks a cigarette. He turns around to go back to his car. And you pull a gun out and you shoot. Shooting's being done in churches and bowling alleys, you name it, all the things where we used to think we could gather as a family. But that is where we are in the world, and it's scary, which is why I wanted to bring Vic on to talk about this.
Well, when it comes to the political aspect of this whole situation, I completely disagree. I do not feel as if you should just be quiet. Our parents, and for generations since maybe the 50s, 60s, 70s, don't talk politics, don't talk religion. But what happens after 20, 30, 40 years, you lose an identity. And then you don't learn how to have civilized, I repeat, civilized conversations when it comes to people who disagree with you. And we do need to talk about politics because it's affecting our everyday life in every situation. Now, we have people who come on our show and say, we don't want to know. We just want to stick our head in the sand. Fine. And that's great. If that's how you want to live life, you're entitled.
Why do they say they don't want to know?
Because they don't want to get involved because, everybody's arguing. This side says this side, this side says that. They don't want to believe
it's happening?
Maybe, but we have to listen. The first thing you have to do is, number one, listen. Number two, know that you're not going to change a mind at that point in time. It's not about winning the battle. It's about winning the war. And if you try to win that battle and try to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, what you've done is you've turned them off. You win and you listen and you gain relationships by first listening. You have to be patient and persistent and study and just give your perspective. Politics today is horrible, but the only way you're going to be able to accomplish anything is if you feel you need to say something, say it. Say it in a polite way. Say it. Don't be afraid to say it. And don't be afraid to be canceled. That's the situation. The people who you see in society speaking issues are people who are not worried about being canceled. They have all the money, all the fame, all the fortune, because we've seen a lot more of those individuals come out publicly for a Donald Trump.
Right.
And you had never seen before. And you brought up the whole issue of the economy. Even CBS polling, which let me tell you something, it's not a far right media industry. If anything, it's to the left.
Sure,
not only do they have Trump with the biggest lead that he's had so far in this election, but most Americans say, oh, yeah, I remember the economy and how good it was just 3 years ago. Life has changed. I don't know if there's anything actually good going on with government in the last 3 years. And those are some of the issues we talk about and will today when I get back to my studio as well. But we have to talk about them to see. You can like whoever you like.
Absolutely, and you should. But here's what I do want to ask anyone who truly believes that our current president is doing anything good for us right now, or
I'll answer it, and I don't mean to offend anybody. And this is an example of I would like evidence of something that's really good.
That's what I'm asking.
And I'm not trying to say, oh, you got to vote Donald Trump. He's going to be great. All I'm saying is life was different and better 3 years ago. And I'm not blaming the current president for all of the issues, but when you're the leader, it does fall on you and your cabinet positions.
But is he the actual leader?
I don't know. But I just wish local media and all of national media would show what happens on a daily basis.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
The
Because
world
he's
saw
not.
a press conference 3 weeks ago where he came on at night, and his advisors brought him out in a situation he should not have been in. Late at night, tired. He was terrible speaking about issues that were going on, and then he got hammered about his son, and he got lost, and he's calling presidents by other names.
Right.
Those things are happening on a weekly basis, but
this
much
is
of
our
America doesn't
president
know.
of the
No.
United States. And
The
this
standard has been lowered.
It has.
That's what we can't do with that position.
And I will go back and say this, and I think I've said it before, whether I've said it on this show or maybe just in a video that I put together, but the man's health is not good, and he is the leader of our country, and that is a very dangerous thing. He doesn't even know what he's saying. He's so lost, and obviously, whether he has Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever is happening with him, your mind cannot think straight when anxiety comes into play. So yes, who is the puppeteer behind our president of the United States?
But there is something that is legitimate when it comes to Trump derangement syndrome, and he is going to be the nominee for the Republican side, whether people like it. And I'm not saying you have to like it. He's going to be the nominee unless he decides to not be.
To not be, yes.
Or if his heart stops beating.
So this is about
because
the end
there
of the
is
path
nobody
for Nikki
else.
Haley?
Yeah, Super Tuesday today, 15 states will be out voting. It is the end of the line. I think it was the end of the line before she started because so many things happened with Donald Trump. And it wasn't fair to the other Republican nominees because when you had forces going after Donald Trump and indicting him on so many issues, the American public sat back and was like, wait, why are they doing this over and over and over again? And what happened? His ratings continued to go up, and they continue to go up after every situation. And then yesterday you had the Supreme Court go 9-0 to say he is, that included 4 Democrat liberal judges who went with Republicans. Now, you can argue about some of what was written into it for if he has to come back to the Supreme Court when it comes to his immunity case, which is still ongoing. But he's on the ballot, and he's going to be on the ballot despite some Democrat politicians say, well, we're still going to try to invoke a 14th Amendment to not let him run because he's an insurrectionist. So all it does is it emboldens the community, and it's even pulling independents towards Donald Trump, where he leads in every poll.
That's exactly what I'm seeing happen, is once you really do say...
And it's all right to talk about this.
Well, and that's what we're doing. Right. But the thing is, so Vic has to go off to his show, but what we hope is after this, you start thinking, well, yeah, so maybe I will be pulled and maybe I do go back and see what he did for the country. I think the biggest thing that people, and the people that were against Trump, they found him misogynistic. They were like, he's ignorant to women, all these things. He does make some very childish comments. However, as a businessman, he's brilliant. What he did for the country, for the economy, you cannot at all say that that wasn't amazing of where we were and then where we've gone and where this economy is for this year until the change hopefully the change happens.
I don't know how anybody could ever disagree with the policy that he has brought forward. You can dislike the personality. The policy, it is what it is. And
yeah, but take the personality out of it.
It was strong. And by the way, I get on Donald when for example, he gets attacked by the media. It's unfair, and anybody in media knows it. It is, whether you like him or not. And eventually, you're going to be frustrated, and you're human, and you may say something. He was facing some attacks recently, and he responded by calling Haley bird brain in a tweet. Now, Biden has called him all kinds of names in the last couple, but you don't hear about it nationally.
Correct.
So I still rip Donald. I was like, there's no need to call her bird brain.
Yes.
Just your policy.
That's the childish side of
your
him.
policy is kicking ass. I mean, he's setting records when it comes to primary voting. This is a big deal. We've never seen. And the other thing about it that I'm starting to see is you're going to see the highest African American vote for a Republican president in modern time.
Because everything that's in the media that's painted is that the African American community is
so
against
figure
him.
that
It is
out.
not at all.
No, we have people on our show all the time. We have African Americans on our show. They tell the story. We have legal immigrants who've come on our show and spoke about it and speak to like, wait a second. We see the difference. They remember the economy that you speak of just 3.5 years ago.
And we need that back. Otherwise, that continues to create the divide. Let's see. Someone said...
But I hope while you look at that, that people understand it's all right. Now, if you're in your families, we all have. It may not be the best place to start
So
when it
step
comes to
away if they won't listen. I mean, you can only do so much.
But if you can listen and then make a point, but you have to be polite and be persistent.
Yes.
Be polite, be persistent, but don't feel like you can't say something if it is inside of you, because you need to start listening. We have to listen to gain anything instead of talking, being so worried about, I'm going to make my next point. I'm going to make my next point.
And I have to be right.
Listen.
Right? Listen. That's okay. That's the perfect message for us before we wrap up, to listen. And you hear me say it all the time. Have patience. Truly listen, though. Don't be ready to say what you have to say and you haven't heard one word that they said. That's not what we're wanting for you. Somebody said, Damien says, I don't think we can sit and listen to each other. I have lived all over the country and in Japan. It seems like people here in St. Louis are afraid of change. I'm going to agree with you. I've lived here my whole life, and they do.
That's a whole nother episode.
Okay, come back for
and
that
I
one.
didn't realize that because I grew up here. I'm St. Louis born and bred. I love this place.
I do too.
And then I moved all around the country for 17 years in the TV industry. And then there were so many aspects that I wanted to bring back from, let's just say Detroit, where I spent almost 12 years. I wanted to bring that philosophy and the thinking back here when it came to this area. So yeah, we don't want to change.
Do you agree we're cliquey? That's what people always
100.
say.
And I didn't realize it until I moved away.
You came back?
My first year out of college, I lived with a guy from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And Dennis always used to tell me, you guys act like you're some big East Coast city, cliquey, stick to your own. Now, there's some positive with this too, but it's how this area was drawn up from the get-go.
Right.
And I'm like, what? No, you're just an East Coast, whatever. And then I moved back and I'm like...
And you saw it.
Yeah, and it was difficult outside of the friends that I had when I moved back. I was going through a divorce, and I'm trying to reach out to different communities. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like kind of left out.
It's happened to you twice, in a divorce and when everything happened when you left.
But there's so many good people here. Let's just open our hearts and our minds to others.
Damien says it. It took me leaving St. Louis and joining the military to realize that people here live in their bubbles.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's see. Anybody else with so true, Vic?
But if you don't leave your bubble, you don't know. And
you need to leave your bubble.
And that's not your fault.
I tell people all the time, reach out, start to talk to somebody that you probably wouldn't have in the past. It's somebody who looks different than you. They were brought up different than you. Their education is different, whatever. It'll take you out of your comfort zone and you'll figure out some pretty amazing things when you do that, by the way. Marilyn says, thank you, Vic. Shame on those that share and thrive on the division. Even in my close family, it amazes me the other side is so enraged that I will not come over to their side, which is filled with hate and lies. Amazed they can drink the Kool-Aid filled with anger and hate, and a lot of them consider they are Christians on top of that. I call that talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Well, even a prophet will not be recognized in his own hometown.
Look who's watching us, Mr. Steve Savard, who I think is a class act. Talk about someone that was in sports and then made the switch to news.
He was one of my heroes, and I don't mean to say that.
I hope he's still on. We love you, Steve.
I don't mean to say that in a condescending manner because he was, and I've talked with Steve over the years, and Steve's reached out to me a few times.
Is he still
too.
in the Springfield?
Springfield.
Yeah. What an incredible class act.
Yeah.
Steve, you know I've always thought the world of you.
I agree. I second that.
Damien says, I guess Vic forgot about the pandemic, the chaos, and the indictments. Monica, if you're going to pick on Biden, you should also be balanced and talk about the issues with the former president. Tell me what your issues are with the former president. We will do more of this on the show, by the way, if you would like to. I'm not picking. I'm looking for something that Biden has done for us.
Thank you. But thank you for bringing your opinions.
Thank you for speaking.
Too. Yes, that's what you have to do. The indictments, you have to break down every situation. And even some hardcore conservative lawyers say that there's one case, specifically with the immunity case, that Trump may be facing some issues. But at the same point in time, when it comes to all the indictments right now, when you look at the facts of the cases, they're not holding up in court. Right. And that's the only issue. Now, when it comes to the pandemic, I don't know specifically what he meant. But
no, and feel free, by the way, when the show wraps up, because we look at these comments, and I'll make sure that if Vic misses one,
after
I'll have
10
him.
o'clock, I can get to it.
Yeah. So, Damien,
because we're live till 10. I'm racing back for my show,
yes,
which stays on until 10 o'clock at canceltheshow.com.
Please, if Damien is still on, please go deeper into that. And I do want to talk about these things. I don't want a polarization and an unbelievable divide regularly. I do want to bring more positive things to, and I'm glad you're tuning in, by the way, but I've just been very frustrated, which is why we all have the right to vote. And that's why I hope you exercise that right. If you don't, then shut your mouth.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I don't mind people reaching out and talking to me from a private standpoint or on our show, because we need to talk about those issues. You have to talk about these issues. Like you brought up birth control. I love talking about the abortion issue. And people, why would you want to do that? Because it is an issue. I feel as if it's the only strong issue that Democrats have right now in this country. When it comes to when Democrats talk abortion, it moves the numbers, whether you agree or disagree.
Sure. Well, and you also sent us an email, which I also found interesting because it depends, just as I said, it depends on what network you're watching. It also depends on the platform that we're on. So you were looking into, or your team was looking into research and the numbers of whether you had a hashtag of Trump or it was a non-Trump thing. As to where your numbers were higher or lower, it depends on the platform. Facebook,
Correct.
X, YouTube, Rumble. On Rumble, I'm sure if you have hashtag Trump, it's higher.
Well, here's the reason. I mean, we got grounded by YouTube because we dared talk about 5G. And I was like, why? We're trying to help people. And medical misinformation. Whereas that would never happen on a platform like Rumble. And Facebook has been great so far as well.
Right.
We just want to talk facts and truth and try to have people on to give their perspectives.
And the balance.
Why wouldn't you want to? I go back to quote the pandemic. And when it came to the shots, the jabs,
vaccine.
you know, why can't you have another perspective of somebody saying, well, you know what? Here's some evidence, not just my opinion, but here's some evidence where maybe the vaccines that we got are not the end all. And evidence has now shown that to be the case. It just has. But you have to go through all of those things and talk about why not get every perspective possible.
Somebody reached out to me, and I'm going to be looking into this gentleman, by the way. There's a GoFundMe that was started for him, and the man is barely making it. He was an incredibly hard worker, but he was one of many of us that were forced to get the vaccine. So I have that in me. It scares the hell out of me because of something, and I have never talked about this. I will maybe at one point, but there's something very severe that happened to me from the vaccine. And so everybody that was pushed on it, my sister-in-law and my brother were like, I cannot believe you did that. And I said, I would have lost my job. How ironic that all of a sudden
my father has had a heart issue that developed out of nowhere. So I don't know. I mean, but that's another one of those issues where let's talk about it. And those are topics that we have on Cancel This.
Listen to the people that, you know, again, and maybe I will at some point, but you have to go deeper into understanding. Nobody really knew the long-term effects. We still don't. I mean, even that it's in our body, I still don't know what will happen. Okay, hold on. Somebody said, what about E. Jean Carroll, and what about when Biden did get in and change the direction of the pandemic relief? We do need to listen to each other more.
The E. Jean Carroll case is one where if you break it down, I will politely disagree because there was zero evidence in that case. They took a woman for her word with no evidence, yet so many other cases they didn't. If you're going to do it one time, you have to do it all the time. Evidence was not allowed in that case, and it shocked me how the judge handled that case. If I'm covering it from a news standpoint, I'm going, wow. When it comes to the pandemic, we can debate back and forth whether things were good or bad. I'm not giving you some hardcore answer to that. But when it came to the E. Jean Carroll case, I'm telling you from my journalistic standpoint, that whole case was bad from the get-go. If you're not allowed to bring evidence in and then somebody's convicted for that amount of money with no evidence except word of mouth and a dress that wasn't even made at the time, you know, those are issues that you need to really bring forward.
And that would be a show we'd have to go deeper into. But Lisa, again, thank you for bringing these up.
Yes.
This is what we want. Hi, Pete Ferretti. I love you. Thank you for watching us. You're good friends
Circle
with Pete.
7,
right?
one of the best places.
There you go.
It's amazing.
Hold on. Before we wrap up, one more. Damien, who said, I guess you forgot about the pandemic, he came back and said, I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation, Vic, without the vitriol that is normally shared in the national media.
Leave it at the door. We can't even agree on clothes, food, restaurants, movies, drinks. Time, sleep? It's all right to disagree, but we have to, and that's when Dr. Mark Kaysen, who does our more left-leaning show at 4:00 every day on Cancel This on Facebook, it's called The Showdown. we talk and we understand that we don't agree on a lot of things. But
do you call each other names and you
No.
try to get into a fist fight?
No.
Troll and, I said that before.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And you have to listen.
And by the way, for all of you that get so frustrated from the people that are saying whatever they're saying to you on social media, just please block them because you're never going to change their mind. There are just going to be some people that are so volatile, you're never going to change
These conversations need to be had in person.
Yes.
It's hard on. It's
the
very
people who
difficult.
don't have a picture, by the way, on Facebook, don't trust them. I'm just going to say. All right, we do this at the end of the show. All right, and I know you got to get off to your show. So tell everybody where they can watch one more time. We'll give you your website up there.
Once again, cancelthisshow.com, Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central. You can catch all of our episodes on the website, cancelthisshow.com. News headlines, politics, cancel culture, education, business. And on Fridays, we have our Free for All Fridays with Eric Johnson and Kelly Mano. And we just have so much fun. And of course, you go to our website.
I wanted to show this. You have a lot of merchandise. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, yeah. We have lots of merchandise. And we do everything we possibly can to get the word out, talk facts. And
rep the show, folks. Rep the show.
And just have
trucker hats,
yeah.
Stanley tumblers.
and no, we appreciate your support. It's so great to see what you've done here with the show and what you're trying to do on a daily basis. It is absolutely amazing what can happen from an idea.
Yes.
From what you had when you left local news to go, okay, it's not easy to put this together. Nope. I've done it myself.
Right.
It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but it's so cool to see this come to fruition.
And you.
So congratulations.
Thank you. And the same to you and your success. And I hope it's long lasting. All right. So from the faith standpoint, 100 Days to Freedom from... We've done fear and anxiety a lot, so I'm going to actually take that one out because, honestly, it seems to be the one we're going to get through the quickest because everybody seems to use that one. But I heard something today, we'll see if you pick it, that I think we might need to address. So from shame, depression, anger, overeating. Which one are you feeling?
Can you repeat those again?
Shame, depression, anger, overeating. 100 Days to Freedom from one of those.
Let's go with freedom.
No, they are all freedom.
Let me see. Let's go.
Anger, depression, shame. I'm not feeling overeating either, so I'm going to knock that guy out.
How about freedom from anger?
Anger.
We'll go there.
That feels like the right one to do. I also heard a little shame from Marilyn, so saying we're trying to eliminate the word shame. Shame on ourselves, shame on others. So I know it's easy to do, though, Marilyn.
That would work, too.
How about we read a little bit from both?
Yeah.
We're going to bring them together because...
You put me on the spot.
No. But I like them both. Well, I could see the anger, right? Because it would have been easy for everything you went through to be angry and to hold that against. And instead, look how you've
I was only angry at myself, and that's why I choose that book.
And that was the thing. Oh, I did ask, before we take a real quick break, what's the greatest thing you've learned from the last year and a half? If you could go back and talk to Vic the day he was recorded, what would you tell him?
It's not that big of a deal. Take a deep breath. Things are not as bad as they seem.
You look happier.
I'm getting more sleep.
Oh, no, that's huge. Hey, that's another whole thing, right? 1:30 in the morning wake-up calls, and you're like, I did that for 30 years. Oh, my gosh, this is how health feels.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, quick break, and we'll wrap things up for you on The Real Monica Adams Show.
Envita Health and Wellness, where you can feel your best both inside and out. Envita isn't your typical med spa. They're a multi-specialty medical spa and wellness center serving St. Louis and its surrounding areas. They have ketamine for mental health and pain, IV therapy, medical weight loss, and aesthetics treatments. As board-certified anesthesia providers, Envita can ensure that their advanced treatments are provided safely with minimal to no pain. So let Envita take care of you. Call 314-394-0950 to book an appointment or online envitahealthandwellness.com.
Welcome back. What a great show, as I knew it would be, with my dear friend Vic Faust. And again, please follow his show. You can watch it. He'll be rushing over there. Please be careful while you're driving. Rushing over there to talk about Super Tuesday and anything you want to continue to listen to. You can go from my show wrapping up to his. It's a great little handoff for you. Michelle just said we need the Real Monica Adams trucker hats. Okay, fine. We've got jackets and shirts and we've got mugs and journals. But hey, let's just learn from Vic on that one.
They're super popular.
100 Days to Freedom. We're going to start from anger, bad behavior. This is day 19. The wise are cautious and avoid danger. Fools plunge ahead with reckless confidence. Proverbs 14, verse 16. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. How many times have we heard that? You may have heard that warning from your parent, maybe a teacher at some point in your life. Situations can get out of hand, especially if you have difficulty controlling your anger. Before you know it, your anger is controlling you and someone gets hurt. Anger and rage can make bad conditions worse. A situation could begin with a heated discussion on a topic that two people have strong opinions about. This is eerie that you picked this one. And neither person can really hear what the other is saying. They might experience physical signs of tension, such as clenched jaws, elevated heart rates, raised voices. The part of the brain that is the warning system causes people to react before the cortex does. The part that provides judgment and thought can provide a check. The argument might go too far and one person, or maybe even both, end up hurt, sometimes physically or spiritually, but always emotionally. There isn't a good excuse to go with the force of energy that anger provides. We have to control our reactions and behavior. This maturing can begin in childhood with parents and adults who teach us how to manage our feelings and get along with others. However, even the best parenting cannot change a strong-willed person who is not wanting to learn to exert their self-control. Pretty powerful. Anonymous says, there are some people who always seem angry and continuously look for conflict. Walk away. The battle they are fighting isn't with you. It is with themselves. I'm going to actually leave it there because I just feel like it resonates with a lot of the things that we had talked about. How about I do shame for you next week, Marilyn, and everybody else that still has the shame on me, shame on them. We'll get into that one. Today's prayer: Lord, help me to be wise, to exert control over my anger and use my voice for good. Strengthen my resolve to follow your will and not give in to my anger. I pray for discernment during important conversations so that they would be productive and not hurtful. In your name I pray, amen. That one was chosen perfectly for you, Vic. I absolutely feel that God drew you to that one.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's one thing I learned via counseling, too. An angry man is a weak man. And anger shows itself in a variety of ways. And you may not think you're angry, but you may have some... And angry isn't a bad word. Angry can manifest itself in several ways.
Sure. Everybody, great comments and questions today. And keep them coming in because we will look after the show. Oh, Vic, what about... there's more here. That would continue our show. We'll look at this, and I'll make sure that Vic sees it after his show wraps up. Be careful driving over there.
I promise I will be.
Thank you for starting with us, and then tell your team thank you for everything that they're doing. You got a great show, and I hope it's long-lasting, like I said.
Thank you so much. Likewise with this as well, and thanks to your viewers and listeners for being with us today.
So we say it all the time. Thank you to Vic Faust and to all of you. We couldn't do it without you. Couldn't do it without the community that has come together to change the world for the better. And that's what we're trying to do. Remember, we had a belief that we could do something bigger and better from the foundation that we had, the skill set that we learned in almost 3 decades. So we believed we could do that. And then we believed bigger. You can as well. Go out. Believe in yourself. No matter how many people try to squash those dreams, you got to keep picking yourself up. Believe that you can do whatever you can in this world, but one of the biggest things I ask you to do is show each other kindness. Be kind. God bless you all.